Hi there. The Luna's Artcast, a show where a couple of visual storytellers get together, take a walk around a topic, try to crunch on it a little bit, but then turn it into some kind of useful activity to do. We think, and then we do. My name is Jersey Joe's cartoonist and teaching artist. The other host is...
Hey, I'm Rob Stenzinger, a designer and person who makes stuff. How you doing, Jersey?
I am doing very well because we have a special guest who I'm so happy to have back. She might have knocked Ryan Estrada out of the top slot for most appearances on the show with this one.
I hear him falling. I hear him boom, 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 boom.
Oh man!
There he goes.
Oh, how the mighty fall!
Kasey Van
I don't know.
Hise.
Ryan seems a very nice guy. I have not met him.
Ryan's a super
Going
nice guy.
down. Going down.
There's a reason that he's the Obi-Wan Kenobi ghost of this show, but you know, Kasey, you are one of my favorite top 10 favorite people in the whole world.
Checks
easy.
in the mail.
And Kasey Van Hise, of a webcomic artist, webcomic writer, recently visual novel writer of Hustle Cat for Date Night-O. We should pull that up. There it is.
Yeah.
Hustle Cat. You've been on the show before to talk about this. We were on episode 121, actually, talking about visual novels and writing them. But since then, Hustle Cat has been, what do they call it? It succeeded. It raised the money.
Yes, we kicked start. We actually raised, I think we went about $9,000 over our goal, which was $25,000. So it went pretty well. And that was when things really kicked into high gear. You can see here the website is up. You can look at them, all the amazing art by Lindsay Wichi, who did our cat designs, and look how good they are. And we've been in full production mode ever since. I'm actually hitting kind of the final stretch of script writing right now, so it's good to have a break.
But for those who don't know, for those who haven't checked out episode 121, what is the basic idea behind Hustle Cat? So
Hustle Cat is a visual novel, which it's a form of game, sort of like one of the choose your own adventure novels, where it's mostly it's a narrative story that's told to you as part of the game, and as you progress through it, you'll get different choices that you can make. Maybe there's something you say, maybe there's something you don't say. Or it's whatever action you choose to make, and at these strategic points in the story, you can branch off into different results. And in the case of Hustle Cat, as is the case with a lot of visual novels, it's romance-oriented, so the choices you will make will determine which of the hustle kids you'll end up being in a romantic relationship with, and then all the things that kind of go with that. There's a lot going on. It's an urban fantasy, there's magic, there's cats, there's people who are cats, and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
and you can choose the what was it, the gender or the orientation of your main character, and even the pronouns that you choose, right? So there's like
you choose your appearance separately from your pronouns. So if the screen is showing here, there's two of the options here. We have 6 different options that you can select for Avery, the main character. Then you can choose he, she, or they, and you can switch that during your play. That'll be part of the, this is actually a player suggestion, to be able to switch that in the settings menu, so you can change it as you play. And then everybody is romanceable at all times. So we don't do any, like, gating, so it's not like you have to date the boys if you're playing with the she pronoun or something like that. None of that is there, so it's a very open experience. And that was something that was kind of important to us going into that.
Yeah, and that was something that I remember you making very clear in the Kickstarter video, and I just remember thinking, like, good for you guys, you know, modern storytelling, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, this is an opportunity to do something like that, so, like, the simple answer to that is literally why not?
Yeah.
So we did it.
Right.
But it takes a philosophy to do that. It takes so you're mixing like the philosophy, the culture, but the technology too, taking advantage of it. Like it is a video game. It's not hard and in print. There's not like one copy per all the permutations and all the combinations.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Thank you.
This is and I don't know if we mentioned a URL. It's all at datenaito.com, right?
Yes, or cool. hustlecatgame.com.
Hustlecatgame. Okay, cool.
Yep.
Okay, but also just to further contextualize the discussion we're going to have today, and for those who somehow downloaded this without seeing the title, finding satisfaction with the work. We're talking about like being satisfied with the work, and we'll explain more in a moment. But to contextualize this, we got to give you all of your credentials, your CV, as it were, Kasey, because
yes.
you also for many years did webcomic, Winters and
Yes,
Lavelle.
We'll be coming back. Not as a webcomic, but it will be coming back. But yes, I did Winters and Lavelle for about 5 years as a twice weekly updating comic.
God, you did that twice weekly?
Yeah, for most of it. Towards the end, it was once a week, but and you wonder why I burned out. But
yeah,
it's a lot. I did that.
382. I just looked.
Yup. I mean, this can tie in a bit with the rest of the talk, but I recently reread all of it because I'm going back to it after taking 2 years off, and I felt pretty good about it, actually. I was pretty proud of it. I mean, obviously there's things to improve when you look on an old work. Well, we can talk about that as well, but yeah, that was part of it. Another thing that I worked on for a while and we'll eventually be getting back to is Parasite Nights, which I wrote and Lindsay Woods, who is the artist for HustleCat, drew. We both sort of wow, this looks so different. Sorry that the pages on the screen, I haven't looked at this in a really long time, and Lindsay's art has grown and my writing has grown, so this is really strange to look at.
Yeah, when you look at Lindsay's stuff on HustleCat, it's like super, super strong and so sharp and crisp. Like,
it's so good.
Yeah, Lindsay's amazing.
Yeah.
But the stuff she did in Parasite Nights is still really strong.
Oh, it's great. I'm really proud of the comic. It's just, it's wild to see such a big difference with that. So, so those are my creds.
So you've worked with other people.
Mm-hmm.
You've worked on teams. You've done your own thing. Done lots of stuff, lots of visual storytelling stuff. And we're going to pick we're going to pick your brain on finding satisfaction with one's work, which I think is a big problem for a lot of cartoonists.
Yes.
But and then it all began with an innocent tweet where you said, I never really felt satisfied with my art, but I feel like I can look at something I wrote and think, I really like this, and it feels nice. And that's the kind of thing we're going to be talking about today. But before we go into any further than that, Rob, we got a way station.
Yeah, we do. It's an ad spot, if you will, and well, in this case, we have a sponsor, and it's us. The secret ingredient is people, and we're the people. So, and we happen to make some things that you can do. You can go check out to support this podcast at leanintoart.com/workshops. That's where you'll find things like Jersey's Comics Fundamentals class, and that'll give you an awesome overview of just making comics. Then, if you want to dive deeper into like sound effects and the various audio but visual aspects of making comics, then there's his excellent Fatam workshop, which dives deep into that topic that he's super passionate about, and you really should check out. And there's some other stuff too, like using storytelling to shape the UI and experience of your comic, and some other explorations like turning jokes into comics and making video games from your comics.
It's at leanintoart.com/workshops. And then, yes, Rob?
Yeah, Jersey, go ahead.
Okay,
and
so
then.
very, very quickly, I want to also make sure that people know about This Panda Needs You, because Rob is a coder and a game designer, and he made this awesome game where it's like anybody who's a fan of things like, now I'm trying to remember that name, that game that came pre-installed in every Samsung device. It was like Crayon Doodle or whatever. You know what I'm talking about?
Crayon Physics?
Crayon Physics.
Mm-hmm.
It's akin to this in that there are these stacks of blocks. If you're a fan of these physics games, stack of blocks, cloud comes by, wind blows the blocks down, this panda shows up, this won't do, you have to help the panda set up the blocks again. It's for little kids, but it's also the kind of thing where I can see this being an awesome meditative thing for adults. It's in the iTunes App Store for the iPad, and you can find more information on it at this-panda.com. I make a webcomic called Boulder and Fleet, Adventurers for Hire, which is Look, folks, you know I love He-Man. This is my love note to He-Man with animals. That's the elevator pitch for it. Like, if you want to know what I would do with a He-Man comic for kids, read Boulder and Fleet Adventures for Hire at boulderandfleet.com. You can read it on Instagram and on Twitter and on Tumblr. It's posted natively in all those places, even Tapastic. So, okay. Are we ready to hit the music to go 10,000 feet up and start talking about this thing in the abstract?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go, Kasey. Break out your wand.
Oh, I'm ready. Hold on. Oh, no.
Did you fight? Oh, she's got it. 10,000 feet up where we talk about the topic in the abstract. Look at it from a conceivable angle. Look for the hidden dimensions and depths. This is the part where we think about the why before we talk about the how. So, I thought it might be an interesting place to start with defining this thing that we call satisfaction. What do we mean by satisfaction, right? Mm-hmm. And as I thought about it, I was like, well, satisfaction can mean a variety of things, and it kind of comes out of like three big sort of desires that why we make things. These aren't the only ones, but these are kind of like sort of generally speaking some big topics or big thoughts behind, big motivations behind why we make stuff, right? Financial reward, prestige, respect, right? So like I want to make money, I want to make a living, I want to keep a roof over my head, or I want to win awards, I want this guy or this gal who made something really amazing, I want them to look at my work and think that's amazing. Or making a thing that has its own intrinsic value. I want to do something that means something. I want to make something that lives outside of me, right? And it has its own justification. It just is because it deserves to be, right? Do we? Am I missing any in that?
I don't think you're missing anything. To me, I'm hearing two different flavors of extrinsic motivators and one intrinsic, more or less, right? Okay. Where extrinsic motivation, you have the external things like the recognition, that's sort of like the tribe or your peers or your desired peers or whatever voting you into some kind of recognized position, what have you, with their attention. But then, and that's external to you. And then there's also money where that's, well, to get this reward, to be compensated at whatever level you feel is appropriate, that could be satisfying for making the thing. But then the other one, I'm curious to make sure it's not also a different flavor of extrinsic. You say the just making a thing and have it exist and you believe in it existing and that's satisfying. That's kind of just internal, right? Where you're like, I made that thing and it's and the feedback loop is between me and that thing. And now that it's there, I'm happy or satisfied.
I think that's fair.
Cool.
Yeah,
just checking. So awesome. Yeah. Kasey.
So question for you guys. When you think about the things that you've made in the past, and I'm hoping the listeners will do this too. Think about things that you've made or things that you want to make. And if you can honestly answer, generally speaking, are there one of those three that tends to be the initial, but not necessarily only, but the initial motivator behind your decision to make that thing?
It's always the intrinsic first, I think. I'm also coming at this from a different angle than I think a lot of people. I don't really work freelance. I tend to work entirely on my own projects. Like I got extremely lucky that I pitched Hustlecat and it was accepted, but it was a story I wanted to do. So it's all about being selfish to me. Like I only write the stories that I want to write. I realize I'm in a situation where I can do that because I'm not financially dependent on it yet. Maybe someday, but at this point, I can afford to be picky with it. So I'm not busting myself to make something that I hate. And I'm not saying that that's the case for all freelancers by any means.
You just called me a prostitute. That's okay.
I did no such thing, sir. No, I, which is why I'm saying I'm coming from this from a very, very selfish angle where I can say like, no, I can just grab all of the things I like and throw them in a stew pot and like that's my dinner. Or I get to eat ice cream for dinner every day. But there's also, you can find intrinsic value in vegetables, in doing like work for hire or things like that too. So
Sure. No, absolutely. I would never work on anything that I would be ashamed to work on, no matter
Yeah.
what the price, right? I've
Yeah.
had those contracts dangled in front of me like anybody.
Exactly. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, it doesn't have to be like this is my original story. These are my characters and my story. You can even just do it and find intrinsic value in the type of storytelling that you're doing for it, and say like, I want to challenge myself. I want to try that new ink brush, and I think that I can find a lot of value in that, and I think it'll look good. And that's always, always, always the first part of it to me. If the other two follow, then that's fantastic. If not, then at least I made something for myself. And I think that's especially important if you're doing a long-term project, because ultimately you're the one who has to answer to yourself. And I think that's something you always have to keep in mind.
Rob?
Did she just finish the podcast?
Well, good night, everybody!
Good night. I mean, it's like I said, you're writing all these quotes. And yeah, okay. Because the idea of at least you made something for yourself, that sounds like a pretty interesting measure to say that whatever comes of this, that, well, you put something in the world that you believe should be out there. And more or less, I think, are you implying, well, that's not a bad outcome, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's I feel like I've seen, and forgive me, I cannot remember who said it, but I feel like somebody had said something about that for their long-running webcomic, where they were like, they said explicitly that they do it for themselves, because if you are wasting your time, well, that's it, you're wasting your time if you're trying to make hundreds and hundreds of pages of something that you don't even enjoy in the hopes that you'll get an audience for it, where that's not, if you're not happy doing it, why are you doing it? Is really what it comes down to. So don't do a 300-page superhero webcomic if you hate superheroes and just want to write romance or something. Just do it. You'll find it.
I want to put on a hat that sort of, I mean, while I agree with you, I want to put on a hat that explores another angle on it. So
Yeah.
I think there's a necessity perspective, right? Where it's like, you know what? I have to put food on the table, and it can't be ice cream in my bowl every night because I have expensive ice cream taste, whatever. I have to like get the gigs to do do what's necessary to, address my needs and whoever else I'm responsible for, pets, kids, etc. That to me seems to be one of the kind of pivoting things that feels like it's often opposing of what you're describing, of like, well, don't I have to just accept these other things? And I don't know. How do you see that, and how do you manage around that? I don't know if this is getting on the ground too soon, but is that perspective valid at all, or would you?
No, it's absolutely valid. I just feel like I'm not. I think, as I mentioned, I'm not 100% qualified to speak to that because I haven't really had that experience. Like, I think, Jersey, you might be able to speak a bit to that as somebody who freelances a little better than I can. So well, I will defer.
What I'm hearing in there, Rob, and stop me if I'm misunderstanding or getting off track, is that there's these three areas of concern that I highlighted are not interdependent, or rather they're not independent. They are interdependent. They yes, I'm making a thing that's for me. And as I'm putting in these hours every week on this thing that's for me, I'm also thinking, boy, it sure would be nice if those hours also made me money on top of that, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because
you
every
gotta
hour
get
I spend on
cheddar.
that. Right, and then also, there's another part of me who says, boy, I did a really good job on this page. This page is really clever, and there's some neat stuff going on there. I did something only comics can do. Where's my Ignatz? Where's my Eisner? Where's my Prestige? Where's my kudos? Right? When are people going to line up to say, "You got it, kid"? Right? It's human. It's human that we would want. We want recognition for the things that we work hard on. Of course we do. So, I think you are absolutely spot on, Rob. That you can't just say like, "Yeah, just make a thing just for you," and everything else will just work out. And if it doesn't, at least you made something for you, because throughout the process of making anything, all these concerns are going to sort of like kind of shuffle back and forth. So that's why I asked. I was very clear in my language. I wanted to know your initial reason, not the only reason, but the initial reason. And I think that's interesting too, because I think no matter which one of those three concerns is making the loudest demands, without that final one of making the thing that has intrinsic value to you, it's going to be hard for it to be satisfying.
Yeah, it's just hard to.
Oh, go ahead, Kay. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I realize now I was being very reductive, and I can't say that I'm not doing it for money after I've done a Kickstarter. But
No. And I wasn't. This was exploring it. This was an exercise, right? So I don't want this to be. The tone of it is curiosity and exploration to try to.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely.
And I think inherently it sits on territory that could be divisive and whatnot and challenging, but that's fun to explore because.
Yep. Oh yeah, for sure. I like talking about it.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and let it be clear that I absolutely believe that you deserve to be paid for doing the thing you like. Even if it's doing a thing you like you deserve money for that. So don't. Because I realize after saying that I'm sort of falling into that territory of do it for exposure and the love of the craft, and that's not it.
Okay. Allow me to argue against arguing against yourself, because I think there's it's tough because we oftentimes do glue these things together, and we have these three expectations of an individual project. But if we divide up this into separate projects or separate work that has like separate success outcomes, right? So if you have essentially a way to make money where you fund your creative endeavors, your creative endeavors have inherently become isolated from those making money concerns as in the short term, right? And so now you can succeed in both if you have the resources to do both, right? So there's a way to decouple these things is I guess my angle on it, to say that it's not like I only can get one ticket and put forth one effort into the world that must do all these things.
Yeah. No, it's a Venn diagram for sure. Like there's bits and pieces of each that come up, and yeah, like even if you are doing it independently of how you make money, then I don't think that removes you from the other areas of it either. Right. I think those are still things to consider as part of that.
Yeah, and as a freelancer, that is definitely. I'm thinking about these three concerns with every job I'm presented. Is it going to pay good? Am I going to love what it is, right? And is it going to be something that will help me find more gigs, the prestige and respect, right? Is this something that I can showcase to say, look what I can do, let me do more of this? So certainly. I think that's really like the big idea for me is that these things are not independent concerns. They're very much always in flux, and we need to respect that. And so when we're talking about this, we know that this can sound reductive at times, and we don't mean it to. We are navigating all these things at once, and that's going to make this a tricky conversation, but I think a fun one. So when we talk about satisfaction, we're talking, I think generally speaking, based on your tweet, Kasey, we're talking about the sense of looking at the thing that you made and feeling that intrinsic value in it, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Generally speaking, we're talking about that because, let's face it, when you're making an expression of anything that's like, especially Hustle Cat, you said it was your project that you pitched. So
well, it wasn't. I don't want it to sound like I'm working by myself because I am working with a team on it, and it's not just me. But anyway, sure. I don't want the rest of date night to watch this and be like, "Excuse me, Kasey, if you can make this game yourself, go right ahead," because I absolutely cannot. It is not just me. But yes, anyway, I'm sorry.
I'm going to scroll down to the piece on the page, like, look, brought to you
thank
by
you. Yes, thank you.
Kasey Van Hise. Oh, let's hide Lindsay's name right
there. Oh,
there.
That's it. Nobody else. Conrad's not here. Joe's not here. Sam's not here.
No,
sorry.
Conrad, Joe, Lindsay, Sam, and Audra. And let's not forget Audra, for crying out loud.
Yes.
Anyway.
Oh, my goodness.
But this was a personal thing for you. Like, you were invested in this. So with that said, there's I don't want to turn this into, like, emo, but when you make something that comes from your heart, there's a lot of opportunities for you to feel rotten about it, right? If it's not exactly what your taste wanted, if you're having difficulty with it, if you're having difficulty with, like, a day job kind of situation, it's like, oh, that's kind of annoying. But when you have difficulty with something that is like super, super tied into your identity as an artist, it has the potential to make you feel pretty rotten. So finding those moments where you look at the work and go like, hey, the kid knows what they're doing today. That's a very valuable and often, I think, glossed over piece of being an artist. Is that
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And I can say I've been on the other side of that too. I had quite the existential crisis while making Winters in Lavelle. So I've definitely been on the side where you can't see any intrinsic value and you wonder why you're doing it. So if I can help anybody kind of come around to that, I guess that's like my main. That's why I wanted to share the fact that I have found satisfaction and that I'm finding things to be proud of. And that's why I wanted to come on here and
Okay, so
and
you entered the
preach.
dojo. You entered the
Yes.
dojo. Now this is where Rob and I are going to come at you, and you're going to like flip us through the walls.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
All right. Because as we talk about this sense of
I'm ready.
satisfaction and looking at the work and saying like, hey, the kid knows what they're doing, I'm hearing some devil's advocate lines coming in here. I'll take the first one, Rob, and you can take the second one. How about that? So I'll do first attack. So Kasey, if you are satisfied with the work, there goes your thirst for improvement. You know, I am going to hang on to my pain. I'm going to hang on to my misery. I'm going to keep talking to my Darth Vader skull in my bedroom and think about the bad feelings, because comfort is the enemy of art.
I would say complacency is the enemy of art. But I think this is one of the first lessons you learn as an artist, and this is definitely something that I've been telling myself since college, since high school. I don't know, where I think for the longest time I had the philosophy that if you looked at something you did and you liked it, then you could not recognize your own flaws. But I think people, myself included, or myself as the prime example of this, get to a point where you look back at something and all you see are its flaws, and that's not doing you any good either, because then if all you see is mistakes, why are you still doing it? And that's why you have to look for some kind of intrinsic worth in what you're seeing, even if it's just like, I drew a good eye. The rest of it is garbage, but I drew a good eye. And I think there's an important balance that you can learn there. It feels pithy when I say this, but I feel like a lot of it comes with experience and practice, where the more you work on it, the more you can learn to apply a critical eye to your work with moderation. Like even on the things I'm working with now that I'm really proud of, I can look back at the beginning of the Hustle Cat script. My writing has changed enormously since I started it, and I can look back at the beginning and say, well, that's not really wording I would use anymore. I think I can improve this. I can make the wording stronger. So that's some of it. I think a lot of it is just keeping in the middle of the road, I guess, with it, with learning to be self-critical but not self-flagellating.
Yeah. There's a big difference between those two, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And it's real easy to fall off the road into the other, I think.
Yeah. All right. You knocked me down. I tapped the mat.
That's right. That's right. Who's next? Who's next?
Let's see. I'm scared, but I will. I will offer something. So, something you mentioned just as you were answering Jersey's question was how you're essentially you've evolved as a writer, even on your current project, and then looking back at some of the earlier work. I'm wondering, what are some of the trade-offs you're facing as far as continuing to change it and getting into this feedback loop of I'm better and I see it and now I must fix the thing that I did before I was this way?
Oh, the webcomic trap, where it's real easy, and I think a lot of people do this, where I feel like I've talked about it on this show too before, where people will finish 3 chapters of their webcomic and then look back, or 2 chapters of their webcomic and then look back at chapter 1 and say, this is bad, I can do better. Where sometimes I think there is a lot of merit in starting over. If you take, for example, I always like to bring up Jen Doyle's Knights Errant, which the draft currently on Sparkler is phenomenal. It's completely different, night and day. I would highly recommend it. So it wasn't something that was webcomic. It wasn't something that was a simple rewrite or something like that. It's completely different. It is a new story entirely. So I think in circumstances like that, then absolutely do it. But if you are just tweaking the angle of the eyeball that you're drawing because you don't like it anymore, then there's a point where you have to stop doing that. And I think what helps, and what's helping with HustleCat is I have a team and I have responsibilities and a deadline. So I can't keep doing that because we have to put this thing out. So that's ultimately the big answer to that, where I think there are times where if you look back at something and you say, no, this is garbage, then maybe do a new draft, but maybe don't do it until you've entirely rewritten your game or your comic or your project 6 times, and now it's... Don't Duke Nukem Forever it, where you keep redoing it and then you put out a terrible product anyway because you've just been polishing the rocks in the corner or whatever. That's a wild story, though. If you are not familiar, read the saga of Duke Nukem Forever and the changes and the rewrites that went through.
I am scared I would get pulled into a time warp and re-experience my problems with that too. But yeah, I bet it would be insightful nonetheless. So the for me, I had a project where we did keep refactoring and redoing the tech, redoing the story, redoing it. Just I learned a lot, but it was a lot of anti-lessons. And
that's some of the important part of it too. And again, to defer back to experience, I think that's important with it because you're gonna sink a project at some point probably. It's just better to do it quietly, and then learn from it and move on. So
I have a second thing. To follow that up, kind of related, but there's the okay, so let's say you don't go back and redo, but now that you've crossed this threshold of, okay, I'm producing to this thing and I'm satisfied with it. This feels good. Now, what about changing? Is that a good time to change the motivation to say, now how do I get paid for this? Or what do you do? Do you expand the scope, and do you allow that to redefine what you initially made?
I think you can, I don't know, I think you can start looking into the other categories at that point. If you have a good thing, then look for the acclaim, look for the money. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's a fantastic thing because I think you do get to a point where you can have this intrinsic motivation, you can be internally satisfied with something, but that's only going to get you so far. I think where if you're creating in a vacuum, then where are you going to get with that? And like I fully admit that Kickstarter was a huge ego boost for me. The fact that it told me that people were interested in what I was doing incentivized me in a big way to incentivize the whole team to keep going. And sometimes you need that extra little boost, and I think externalizing that helps a lot too. And this is why it's one of the things I like about working on a team for HustleCat, where like maybe I'm dragging my feet a bit on a part of the script, and then I'll get like when I got the song from Sam for the demo, the first audio track we got, it was like I was Popeye and I'd eaten a can of spinach. I was like, I'm ready, I can do this. Or like every time I get something new from Audra, or Lindsay looks over my script, or I see a new CG asset from her or something like that, like I think that's a lot of it too. Or even if I just see people talking about it, then sometimes you need that little boost, and that's perfectly fine too, I think. So yeah, I think it's perfectly fine to, once you're at a point with it where you're done and you feel pretty good about what you're doing, to take it out there and sort of see what people think about it, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, that said, something I'm running into right now with Boulder and Fleet is, and I shared this with my Patreon supporters. For those who want to support Boulder and Fleet on Patreon, I've been recording some audio essays, Thunder Punch Dailies, just for the people who support me there. And one of the things I was kind of floating around is like, you know, now I'm doing this, I'm collecting money on it. I might want to change the way I do it. If I change the way I do it, like make the comic, like is it going to be black and white? Is it going to be color? Is it going to be flat color? Is it going to be, am I going to update it more often, do looser art? I'm going to do tighter art and have it update less. And I was sort of sounding it all out. And so I said, well, there's one group who I should go to first with this, and that's the people who are actually paying me to do it.
Yeah.
Right? So it was honoring both motivations, right? It's like, I'm thinking about this. I'm wondering what you guys think about this, right? And also, I mean, that's the nice thing about people who support you that way is anybody can make a poll on Twitter. Should I do this? Should I update the comic 15 times a week? And then everybody's going to go, yeah, do it, dude. And then that's great. Now I got to do it. You know? Different thing when you got people who are like really invested in your success.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I've got a question about satisfaction, though. One more devil's advocate that I want to throw at you, Kasey, and see if you can throw me down.
Okay.
You write something, you look at it, you go like, hey, this is good and I like it. What's it like being so pleased with yourself?
It's nice.
It like looking in the mirror saying like, all right, this is going out tonight, right?
Oh, that's me every day before I leave. Every day. It's good. It's good. I can't even lie. I just do it. It's good. There is no bad point to that. Feel good about yourself. Feel good about what you do. Just have an ego. It's okay.
But
for the most part.
Bad news. I don't like the thing you made. So where do you get off being all okay with it?
Bye.
Oh, that's awesome. The best answer again. How many times you said it? Just that's awesome.
Yeah, let's record that as like a clip.
Make it your ringtone. Oh, I gotta go. Bye. I know that's easier said than done, and I know the moment I get a bad review of Hustle Cat or something, I'm gonna be like eating cheesecake in the corner. But it's gonna happen, and the best you can do is just be prepared for that and just be ready, I guess. I don't know.
Isn't it arrogance? Isn't it arrogance to be pleased with your work?
So?
Right. Is arrogance bad? I like that. I like your flip on that. I mean, so is arrogance bad? Like, why would that?
No, I don't think so. I think, especially, and I mean, again, this could be something where I'm coming from a very specific position on this, but I've seen way more artists come up to like me at a table or something and say, this comic isn't any good, here it is. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves, because if you are going to tell me how bad something is and then hand it to me, why am I going to read it? So this is why I think, at least outwardly, artists should be arrogant. You should be proud of what you're doing, even if you can start it as your public face, and eventually you'll start feeling it. It's the fake it till you make it kind of thing. But at the very least, even if you're struggling with yourself on whether or not you should be arrogant about your work, like, look somebody in the eyes and say, I made this. I think you might like it.
Which, honestly, like, that measure of, like, if we're calling that arrogance, that's probably about at least 200 light years from actual arrogance.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
So
I promise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I promise that what feels arrogant to you sounds arrogant to nobody. So it's because I think a lot of artists, especially newer artists, and I went through this too, feel like saying I made a thing, would you might like it, you might want to check it out, is arrogant, and that's not. It's okay. It's super not. So that's it. Just be proud. Because if you're not proud of it, then I'm not going to be proud of it either.
So pride is part of the satisfaction thing as well.
Yeah,
I think that's worth highlighting. Okay, so in about 1 minute and 30 seconds, we're going to talk with Kasey about your experience. Kasey, we're going to talk with you about your experience transitioning from drawing and writing your own comic to writing a comic to working in video games and working on interactive narrative fiction. and where were the unexpected places where you found this satisfaction, right? We're going to chart that path. But before we go there, something important we got to do. Actually, I should actually pull it up. It might be a good idea if I actually pull up the website that I'm actually going to refer to. How about I just type the letters really good? There we go. This is a bad ad spot, Rob. Okay, here we go. So if you like what we do here on Lean Into Art, you can support us on Patreon, and we're going to call out some of our top supporters who have been so kind and to believe in the stuff that we do, and we want to thank them publicly for supporting us on Patreon. So we're going to start with Jesse Hughes. Jesse Hughes is a cartoonist. You can find his stuff on Twitter at @PlummyPress, PLUMMYPRESS. And Mark Falk also supports us on Patreon. He's at @the_Chagall, SHAGAL. Is it Shagal or Chagall? I don't know, Mark. Correct me on that one if I'm wrong. But also another web cartoonist, does really cool atmospheric stuff. Catherine Sugru. Cat Does Things on Twitter. Catherine does comics as well, so you should follow her up on Twitter to find out more about her work. Matt Case. Matt Case, I couldn't find your Twitter account, but he's on Instagram, Mr_Danger_Pants. Mr. Danger Pants with underscores in between. Does Fantasy Quest, a comic about animals doing people things. I'm a big fan. And then Elvin Dantes, at Elvin Dantes, also a cartoonist, artist, did a children's book recently, Hubert the Hungry T-Rex. Follow him on Twitter, Elvin Dantes, to find out more about that. Thanks, guys, so much for supporting us on Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. And if you sign up for, even $1 a month, there's extra stuff there that you'll get to participate in, like our open mic posts, and then also the extra leans that shows we record in between episodes. Did I miss anything, Rob?
Don't forget to mention there are free downloads for joining us as a patron on Patreon.com. Yeah, you get a download of a comic by Jersey and one by me as well, which is the entire series of Art Geek Zoo, the 4 chapters of the main story, at least. And
I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, Patreon.com/leanintoart.
Thank you for reminding us of the URL. So,
yeah,
okay.
And thank you to our patrons very much.
Absolutely. So now with that, it's time to cue the other music because we're going to go on the ground. Little solemn because we're going to step carefully into this area. We thought about the whys. Now it's time to actually do the hows. Kasey,
Yes.
You did write video games before or
Nope.
interactive fiction before?
Nope.
Who the heck are you to do this?
I don't know. No, it's honestly a lot of I can't stand when other people say this, but a lot of being in the right place at the right time. But no, I think that my experience in the past had gotten me to a point where I was ready to do something like this. And that's, I think, the thing people don't say about being in the right place at the right time is you have to walk there to that place. And so doing a comic and story planning for big things like that was good prep for doing a long interactive story, I think. And it feels like a good culmination of a lot of things that I've tried in the past that hadn't quite hit. So, but the short of it is Date Naito saw my writing and liked it, and that was it.
Well, I mean, that's something Kazu Kibuishi said this once, that he thought more artists should stop looking for opportunities and prepare for opportunities. And I thought that was a great recontextualizing of the idea.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
It's not that you're sitting around waiting for to be in the right place at the right time. It's like you're working so that when you do find yourself in the right place at the right time, you're the right person.
Yeah, and the funny thing, and this is something that I don't think had occurred to me until I started doing this, is that it might not be in the thing that you start out in. And that was part of my sort of self-discovery with that was after all these years of like college and like all the comics I made in college and the 5 years of doing Lavelle on my own and all this, and being unhappy, and then seriously examining why and realizing that it's because I enjoy writing and not art. And I mean, I still like drawing for the most part, but I don't like full-time job like it. So that's the part that once I cut that out, I was able to focus on the other part of it, on what was making me happy, and learn how to be pretty, I mean, not to toot my own horn, I think I'm allowed to be a little arrogant, but pretty decent at it. So, yeah, it's I think that quote is perfectly right, where it's all the work you're doing. I'm trying to remember the Picasso quote about there's that anecdote about him doing the drawing for somebody, and it takes 10 seconds, and he gives it to them, and they say, what the hell, it took you 10 seconds to do that, and then he says, no, I prepared my entire life for this drawing. And that's it, I think.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's so much to it. Like,
Rob, your mic just dipped down really low for some reason.
Dip down. Yeah. Is it because? Hi.
There
Hi.
Okay. Okay. The whole you this is a misquote of you, Kasey, but essentially you said.
Oh, we lost you again.
Oh no!
Oh, dirty birdie. Hi.
There
You go.
Okay, this is
There's
fun.
the Rob we know and love.
Maybe I'll disappear again. Who knows? But okay, this is a misquote. But roughly, you said you find the place. You find that place by walking somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And that and I feel there's this then the quote that Jersey mentioned. There's a dynamic between being discoverable, and then when something comes up, you have to be open to discovery too.
Yeah.
Where because it's not one-to-one. Like, I think so many times, like when I've encountered someone who is, well, I've had the good fortune of helping bring people on board teams and doing coding and making software and stuff from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the expectations of someone fresh, who, depending on their experience of where they've interned or not, that can lead to the assumption of well, it's one-to-one. What I studied is what I will do. Exactly.
Yeah.
And all these assumptions that went into that, it just will pan out like I was told. But like, I love that kind of, I don't know, I like that framing of it, because I've been trying to find a good way to describe that, like, because I've felt that dynamic as well. When you produce something, you put something out in the world, there's a chance to connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
And that is immensely useful, but only if it's like this. It could be wasted potential if you aren't actually open to find that new thing that may not match what you assumed.
Yeah,
So-
and I think a lot of it is just being open for opportunities and learning to recognize them when you see them. And I guess the counterpoint of that is making sure you don't jump at all of them. But it's the biggest struggle for me, I think, was learning to be okay with that change of opportunity. Where it's happened to me. It happened to me in my day career as well. Like I ended up in a field that I didn't study, and I didn't expect it. And between that and like writing a game, those are, when you jump into something that you do not have a background in, it's like a prime breeding ground for imposter syndrome, because you get into it and you go, oh crap. The second I hand this in, they're going to realize this was a bad choice, and I don't know what to do about that. But that's the kind of thing I think you can kill imposter syndrome with experience. Because once I actually started writing the script for Hustle Cat, it more or less went away. And being able to objectively look back on it and say, this is good. And it also helps that, like, I have a friend editing the story for me and hearing feedback on the editing front. So again, to go back to, I'm sorry.
Why did the imposter syndrome go away? What happened to make that go away?
It's kind of, I think, by actually doing the thing, you kind of face that fear. And again, same for like day job stuff. is actually going in and doing it and then finding that the results come back that you actually want. It sort of helps that fear lessen and lessen over time. The more you do it, the more you realize that things aren't going to burst into flames because you did it so wrong. Then it builds your confidence with time. So I guess it's just do it.
Depending, yeah, depending on the thing, right? I mean, it's like a dialogue that Ann and I constantly have as a way to like sort of manage our stress is that we will say to ourselves out loud, like, there's nobody on an operating table today, you know?
Yeah.
there's no blood involved.
Yeah,
Nobody's life is on the line with this. You know?
Yeah, that's it. And that's something that I've learned very similarly, actually, as a mantra. Like, this will not kill you. You will not die from this.
Yeah.
And if it's something that doesn't kill you, then you can learn and you can move on to something else. So even if you do fail in that new opportunity, unless that new opportunity is like flying or something, it's probably not going to kill you. So it's okay.
So basically, it's the science is the big problem, right? So you got physics, right?
Yeah.
Physics going up too far and being a squishy thing, that can be a problem.
Yeah,
and then
maybe
also,
maybe don't listen to us if that's the field you're going into.
This is called lean into art, not lean into science.
Exactly.
Though, yeah, I don't know. I find a lot of natural connections between those two things. I'm kind of joking because I bet that there's probably some commonality that we're not seeing. We'll have to get some science folks on the show at some point because it'd be fun to explore. Like, there's probably a progression of maybe we're looking at like risk in that way. There's some dimension of risk that the risk in the case of like, so let's say, Kasey, if you were hired to write for like a presidential speech, right? Or like there's probably that would increase the risk enough where now we're talking maybe at parity of being ready for a particular challenge with your staff.
And we should be careful not to be like, again, not to avoid being reductive about this, because there's another way of looking at this. Is I remember this is years ago when I did like a thing for the Kennedy Center, and you want to talk about imposter syndrome. I'm walking into this place, only been teaching for a couple of years, and suddenly I'm teaching on that scale, right? And then they give me this sheet that shows this pyramid of people, and it says like, these are the lives you're going to touch today. Those teachers are going to go to classrooms, they're going to touch this many more lives, and it's going to touch this many more lives. And it was a way to sort of inspire you of like, look at the important thing you're doing today.
Oh, no pressure.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sorry to just on you there, but holy crap.
Yeah, and that's exactly what went through my head. It was like, oh, this giant word called responsibility just floated above my head. You know, it's like now I'm representing my beloved medium to this many people, and I don't know what I'm doing, or well, at least I think I don't know what I'm doing. You know, so yeah, it's. I don't think any of us mean to be glib in saying that no lives are on the line, because in a sense, in some cases, yes, they are. But so it is a responsibility, but it's also something that I think part of the narrative that we're missing here, Kasey, and I think you touched on it very briefly, is that when you walked into HustleCat, you had written, right?
Yeah.
But was that connection immediately apparent to you?
No.
Okay.
Sorry. I mean, more or less it kind of was, but not to the full scale, I think, that I think it could have been. Actually, no, that's not true. I think I went into it as a writer, but it is different when you make a jump like that, because I've never published a prose book or something like that. I've never written a play, and there's a lot of regards. There's a lot in regard to writing a visual novel that's like writing a non-visual novel too. So that was new and that was scary. But
did you learn new ways of writing?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm still learning. So, yeah.
So I think that's part of this like when we were talking earlier about satisfaction is that it's not about complacency. It's about sort of like having a faith that you can execute, learning on the job, and then discovering that your past experience contributes to the new challenges, which inspire the creativity, which leads to the satisfaction. At least that's what I'm hearing in your narrative here. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Rob, you look thoughtful.
I'm considering the, like, we went to like I don't know what to say, a lot of the negative side of finding satisfaction, and I'm looking forward to like maybe as we're wrapping up and thinking of like our final key points kind of things that we just floor it to positive land, or other things that we think would be of service in this topic of finding satisfaction with the work. Because in a way, like I think it's super valid. Like we've talked about, like a lot of the negative kind of like trade-offs and like assumptions and things, the fears that we could have in going about this. But like, there's a huge upside to finding satisfaction in your work too that we've talked about. But like, I don't know. That's was my pondering of like, are we doing enough service to the upside?
Okay.
And maybe you guys can counter and say, "No, we've been doing great." And I'll be like, "Okay."
No, I think we have been kind of guarded about it. So I think you're right in that.
So guarded. Like, what do you think?
Yeah.
Like, what have we been guarding? And what should we like say? Hey, whatever, come in.
Well, no, I mean, there's a lot of stuff, but I think the fact that we've offered a lot of qualifiers about being glib and things like that in this kind of points to something. I don't know. I had something for a second there.
Well, it's like I forget where I heard this. This might have been one of the books that you've been turning me on to, Rob. This idea of like there's like the people who say good enough, and then there's the people who say wait till it's ready. And the people who say good enough tend to be more satisfied in their work. And it's not that they're saying, oh, hey, the bolt's only halfway screwed in, good enough, the bridge will hold. But it's more like you get it to where it's functional. You get it to where it does the job it needs to do. And maybe that bolt's not as shiny as it could be. But is it holding the bridge up? Awesome. Let's move on to the next thing. Something about meeting, executing, and shipping, I think, has a tendency to lead to a sense of satisfaction. Kasey, you were having a Twitter conversation just before we did the show with, oh gosh, I should pull up the Twitter account so I can read his Twitter handle properly, right? But it was I almost said X-Hunter. No, it wasn't. Let's see. It was Robert Christmas.
Yes, there we go.
X-Hunter Co.
Yes,
actually,
you beat me
said
to
like
it by like seconds.
How are you asked to the Twitterverse like, hey, well, where are you guys on the satisfaction scale, and like how do you feel satisfied? And his answer was very straightforward. It's like when I finish a thing.
Oh yeah. That was I can fully relate to that, and I think he hit the nail on the head there. Where nothing feels better than having done a thing, but doing that thing often feels like agony. So that's why I think it's important to not get caught in feedback loops, because you need that for yourself too. You need to be able to look back on something and forget the pain of childbirth, as it were, and then say, like, look at this, I have this thing now. It's beautiful, and it's done, and it's perfect, and it's here. Well, it's not perfect, but you know what I mean. It's here.
Yeah.
I think that's just as important to the process, which I think is probably why I feel like when I see new advice given to new webcomics creators, it's to not start your giant epic series as the very first thing you do, and I think that's it, because you need that sense of accomplishment to build your confidence to be able to actually take on that giant thing.
Yeah, we talk about that a lot on the show, is the idea of like building evidence.
Yeah, a portfolio. Like you're not going to get any opportunities coming up if you don't have a portfolio. Be it for art, writing, coding, anything like that.
And that's where I think maybe even some science comes into this conversation, because you have looking at, what were you expecting? What is satisfying to you for this? Like we were framing up initially, which relates to your motivation, but then you have the thing that you made, and then maybe your assumptions about the audience, and then you don't really get to get any evidence about those assumptions until you get it into their hands, and then what are you going to do with that? Is that Is is there iteration that has to happen on that project, or does it inform a new one? Does it, what does that do? I mean, it's up to you, but like there is this sort of ability to well, form a hypothesis and do something to test it, which is to ship a thing you made.
Yeah.
And maybe what's funny is like even the thing that you assume while you're doing it, maybe that wasn't satisfying. I mean, case in point, think about it's super interesting. You mentioned earlier, Kasey, about the art, the actual visual art aspect of producing a comic turned out to not be as satisfying, right? But like that's the gathering that evidence and gaining that insight must have taken quite some time. And like, I don't know, like that sounds like a really amazing thing to discover. That's probably a whole journey to talk about in and of itself.
Yeah, that was kind of a breakthrough too, I think, is being able to, I guess, have the self-recognition to be able to say something like that. And that's a skill in itself, to be able to learn to be introspective enough and to be attuned to yourself well enough to be able to be honest with yourself like that and say like, no, I don't want to do this. I don't have to. I can find another way to present that. And then that's something that I'm still working with the consequences of, and saying like, if I don't want to draw a comic, what can I do to put this story out still? And that's something that kind of plays back and forth, I think. And yeah, it comes from a place of self-awareness, I guess.
This is exactly what I'm really curious about. Like, so to get to that level of insight and awareness, the ability to act upon all this stuff that must have been building up as evidence to like give you this new insight, but then to see it and act upon it, that's another very significant aspect of being able to even potentially find satisfaction. So,
and that's a trip in itself, I think. I feel like this feels like a good sequel to. We did an episode way back about burnout and about grinding and things like that. So I think.
Yep, episode 97.
I hope coming on here and talking about satisfaction gives a good like epilogue to that, because I think when I was on that, I was in the deep throes of terrible burnout, and now I can take distance from that and introspection and self-care, and to look back on it and say like, okay, well, I got all this other stuff out of the way. Now I can actually figure out what I want to do with this, and I can focus on my creative career, as it were. So
let me pounce on that. You said self-care. What's that got to do with any of this stuff?
If you I'm trying to remember how it goes. So to grossly paraphrase RuPaul, if you can't love yourself, then how the hell are you going to love anything you make? Is really kind of what it comes down to for me. And that was sort of a lot of what I had to work with is I think a lot of my burnout came from a place of depression and anxiety, and learning to deal with that for myself was like picking up a roadblock, and suddenly I could go back on the highway. So learning to take care of yourself, because I think, and I really want to advocate for this, because I see so many comics artists, especially, and I'm sure it happens in games too. I'm not as familiar with the industry yet. Just crash and burn, where they work themselves to the bone, and they are doing all of this. They're hurting themselves. Like, I've seen people actually injure themselves for comics, and I think that's why it's important to learn to take care of yourself and to not hate yourself for what you're doing. And that's why self-satisfaction, I think, is really important, because I think it can help prevent or save you from burnout. Even if it doesn't stop it from happening, I think it can kind of turn it around, and it sort of did for me. It's just like you can do little things. You can buy a nice thing for yourself. Like today, I was feeling stressed about my deadlines for my script, so I got a haircut. It was like a nice thing to do. Or
is that the place you were talking about? Is this Brooklyn?
Yeah. Oh my God.
PBR.
Yeah, they did. It was the most Brooklyn thing I've ever seen in my life. It was lovely. It was a very nice salon, or technically a barber shop, but you know. But yeah, stuff like learning to do stuff like that and to not be so hard on yourself. And that was a big. That sounds easy. It sounds easy to say, but that was a big revelation for me. And to learn to find the good things about both yourself and your work, I think. And I think one comes with the other. Like, you don't want your entire self-worth to be tied to your work. It can be a part of it, but you don't want it to be one of those things where you're always you're going to be chasing that high all the time. So you need to find sort of that in yourself. I don't know. I sound like the ant that discovered yoga and is telling you about it. But like, I think it's important, and it can be little things like if you're drawing for like 12 hours, do those like thing where I'm not an expert. I haven't done them in a while. Don't be like me, but just take a moment to like stretch your hand. I like meditation. I think there's some really good mindfulness exercises you can do and things like that. I have an app for meditating. It's wonderful.
Which one do you use?
It's called Stop, Breathe, and Think.
Mm.
Oh.
I think that's what it's called. I always mess up it's
Stop
3
breathing.
verbs. Let me check my apps real quick.
Okay, and then Rob, you're a big
Stop,
advocate for
Breathe, and
Headspace.
Think. Yes.
Yep, Headspace. Yeah, the
Oh,
beginning
just heard
content in
that.
Headspace was good. Yeah.
Just heard about that one today.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Stop, Breathe, and Think. It lets you pick your mental state, and then it'll suggest meditations for you. And like,
Oh, nice.
it sounds really new agey, but holy crap, does it help to just take a moment and like chill out and ground yourself. So please just like do that for yourselves, everybody, as an artist.
I mean, to back you up on this, there have been studies done showing that just like a simple little taking 10 minutes to either journal or practice breathing before taking on an activity makes you more effective in the activity.
Yeah, for sure.
It helps you focus, and I think that this. I'm gonna back you up on this, Kasey. I think Dean Tripp recently retweeted something. I forget who it was who said it, but it was like they're quoting the Santa Claus is Coming to Town song. It was like, you better not pout, you better not cry, you better. Or I'm telling you why. And then it ended with like the patriarchy is. Did you see this one? It's like
I did, yeah.
It's like the patriarchy is damaging to men because it doesn't let them show their feelings or something like that.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it was good.
and it was just showing how insidious this is. It's like this idea of like stiff upper lip, shut up, rub some dirt on it, get back in there and quit complaining.
Yeah.
When it's not about everybody just become whiners, but it's like that pain point is a signal, and that signal is an opportunity to think about what's going on and address it, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
That's not new agey. That's just being healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
It's science. It's not new agey. No way.
No, not at all. No, and I'm not saying that
It's no, but I don't mean that in a whoa, I'm going to pounce on you now, Kasey. I'm
No,
like,
I know.
It's pointing out the whole the challenging space that we're talking about, and it gets easy to be concerned about some of the negative self-talk voices, external talk with the critiques that I think it's I think a lot of us have heard is from perspectives. Like Jersey was describing, stiff upper lip and challenging the kind of things that we would propose that like you mentioned, pain is a signal, Jersey. And then one of the things to do with that is people consider numbing the pain as like that's the antidote. And while the book Daring Greatly deals a lot with that, where it's being vulnerable actually helps you become stronger.
Yeah.
And there's also it's such a big, exciting topic. My train just, I don't know, flew off into space.
She does it?
Like the Great Space Coaster. Huh? I know how she does it. Yes, that's a good book. I mean, so for me, I went through sort of this sort of framing, puzzling thing, and everyone's got their own sort of difficulties with your creative path and how are you juggling your projects and all that kind of stuff, and like one cognitive bias in one context will totally not get you where you want to go, yet in another will totally get you where you want to go. Super annoying and interesting, where things like being like grit, right? Like, okay, like rub dirt on it, whatever, shake it off, and can totally get you to ship a project sometimes. If you're always doing that, that could just be grinding you to a nub, so you'll never ship another project, or you're damaging yourself or others, what have you.
Yeah.
Mindfulness and all these other things can help you notice that and find the signals when the negative stuff is should be noticed to try to change. I'll also offer, in this prattling thing to wrap up, watch me disclaim as I'm talking about not disclaiming, that the self-satisfaction we've been talking about is also a signal. That is the positive feedback loop versus the negative feedback loop, perhaps, as a way to describe the conceptually, where so you do a thing, you feel rewarded from doing the thing, you do the thing again, and there you go.
I would submit as an extra little token underneath all of that is that I submit that this is something you can train yourself to do. This isn't something where it's like, I got to wait till my stuff is good and then all of a sudden I'll be satisfied with it.
Yeah, no.
What you were talking about earlier, Kasey, is identifying the thing you did right and saying it to yourself becomes a way to train yourself to notice that more, and you'll begin to detect that leveling up.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly it. Where if you're waiting for satisfaction, you're with no work on your part, I guess, you're going to be waiting a long time. And that's kind of it, I guess.
All right, Rob. Do you feel like we've walked around this?
I do.
I feel like that's like we kind of put a bow on it at the end there, especially with Rob's little fired up speech.
Yes.
All right.
Well, it's I learned it from watching both of you.
Okay. Well, gosh. So what happens next? Do we? I guess, Kasey. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us and
Anytime.
and talk about all this stuff. And man, congratulations again on the successful Kickstarter with Hustlecat.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Congrats.
What's one thing, if somebody was like moved by something you did today, like something you said today, I'm like, Kasey, I need to know, I need to just be around that ray of sunshine all the time. What's the one thing you hope they will check out today? I should really ask people this way ahead of time, because it's unfair of me to do this right at the end.
What's the worst question I could answer?
I think just take care of yourself. Like that's the one thing I want you to take from this, is to take care of yourself and learn to recognize the pain signals and the good signals and things like that from yourself, and that will help with the rest of this. I can't even explain how much that will help with the rest of this. It's gonna do it. So just take care of yourself.
Wow, that's awesome. You didn't even want to plug anything of your own, just like you really want. That's what he meant.
Also play Hustlecat.
Okay, nicely done. DateNighto.com,
Yes.
HustlecatTheGame.com.
Yes.
All right. So yes. All right. And then you're also Space Case on Twitter. That's where you can.
With a K.
Space Case with a K. And you're not on Instagram, are you?
I actually just reinstated my Instagram. I'm going to start trying to use it. I don't remember my username. Next time I'm on, I'll tell you.
Okay. All right, awesome. We'll definitely have to have you back, because I mean it's always such it's a really good time talking with you, and that's an understatement and a half. So
I love being on here. So anytime.
Okay, awesome. Well, Rob.
Yeah, I'm happy that we had Kasey on. That's all. Thank you, Kasey.
All right, this show is recorded every couple weeks. Oh, by the way, last show of 2015. Happy New Year, everybody. We'll be back in 2 weeks on Thursdays usually. And in between, we record a show called Extra Lean. So if you just can't wait to hear us again, you can go to patreon.com/leanintoart, and that's where we do the Extra Lean show. And the fun thing about Extra Lean is it's a shorter show, and it's completely unstructured. Rob and I often don't know what the heck we're going to talk about until we turn the mic on, but we always wind up coming up with some kind of little essay together. It's super, super fun, and I am certain that if you guys like listening to us on the show, you will like that too. Patreon.com/leanintoart, and then also Lean Into Art on all the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, etc., etc. Okay, so until next time, everybody, I've been Jersey Drozd of leanintoart.com and Jersey on Twitter.
And I've been Rob Stenzinger of leanintoart.com and Rob Stenzinger on Twitter.
Okay, bye.
Show notes for this episode can be found at leanintoart.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at the user leanintoart, and you can reach us via email at leanintoart@gmail.com. And remember, leaners aren't wieners. Thanks for listening.
There we go.
Woo!
Thanks, everybody, for watching. We're going to kill the stream. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Play Hustle Cat the game.
Play it. It's coming out in February.